Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. This is our home-based meetup for the month of November. Oh, Rob is here. Hey, Rob.
Hey guys.
Well, I don't mean to steal your thunder by all means.
It feels good to be here, actually, Corey, and I haven't been able to make it all week. So it feels good to be here and able to open up and say hello to everybody this morning. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to the home-based meetups from November 15th through the 19th. I look forward to you learning some good things about Canvas today, and I'm sure you've had some good meetings prior to with Power School and SchoolNet and Nesys. So I look forward to doing this with you. I'm going to spend just 3 or 4 minutes with you right now, and then we'll move on to Corey. Next slide, please. If you would, for housekeeping, you see that the microphone turns on and off. You can turn the camera on and off. And if you have a chat, please drop it in there. Please know that if you hit chat and question, it will send it to everybody. If you only want to send it to panelists, please do it in QA. And you actually have captions down the bottom left corner that you can turn on if you need that. And then all your buttons on the bottom allow you to stop, start, unmute, all those wonderful things that we all know how to do since COVID hit. Next slide, please. Next slide. We all know that this is what Homebase is, but it's always good just to review real quickly. And really what I will tell you is Homebase will be the definitive seamless go-to digital resource for North Carolina. That is our goal. That is what we want. And that's what we're here to do for you. Next slide. The purpose of these is to foster communication, make sure we are being up to speed with what the field needs and the field is up to speed with what we have to offer. So we appreciate you taking time out to be here today. Next slide. These are the presentations for the week. That's probably one of the main reasons to get the bit.ly off that opening slide so that you can see all of the presentations that have been given there. Next slide. Home-based meetup schedule. You have Go Open tomorrow. If you would like to be a part of that, please register. And you have the previous ones. Please register for those if you want to see any of the links and information from those meetups that we had earlier in the week. Next slide. This is our mid-year meetup. We will have another one February 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And then we will have another one in the first week in May. We are working very hard to do this face-to-face next year, at least 2 times, so that we can get out in the field and see you. We miss being out there, and we really want to get back into that swing of things. So we may be reaching out to a few of you who have hosted before to see if you would have availability next year once we have some dates later. Next slide. I do have a few updates for you. Power School, we had a maintenance weekend that was November 5th, and that we are looking at maybe having to do another one this weekend for some things Power School needs, as well as new coordinator training will be March 6th through the 11th.
On legs, I'll let you know.
If you
and then I'll
got feedback somewhere, there we go. If you are interested in SchoolNet Transcend, please contact John Mars, and he will be able to help you. And the Canvas Adjusted Priority Service Team, I am sure Corey will spend a little bit of time on this, but that actually, we believe, brings more help to North Carolina. Go Open, please remember to put your resources there. The resources are growing every day, and hub admins can now manage their hub completely, which is nice. That's a good thing for you. And we want to make sure learning.com folks out there, their tier 1 allotments have been released. So please make sure that you are utilizing those funds by November 30th. Next slide. Nesys has a central office view-only role to all staff plans that has been implemented. One thing I would like to harp on, that if you feel you need more training from us, that's what we're here for you for. So please reach out to us and we will help get you the resources you need. And I do want to say a quick thank you to the home-based survey. That we had over 4,000 educators across the state of North Carolina fill that out, and we are very appreciative because it's going to help us determine next steps. And I've actually had all the project managers looking at the data. The home-based advisory group has looked at the data. So we feel that will help us determine the best place that we can take home base. So thank you very much for that, and we are most appreciative. Next slide. We are all over social media. There's all our call signs, hashtags, anything you need to get a hold of us. please know that this is the good way to see us. We have the Did You Knows that go out on Wednesday. We have that link on YouTube. We have a home base overview. If you click on that on the slide, it takes you to a Powtoon we did that explains what home base is. Next slide, please. Also, please join us in welcoming Dr. Dietrich to his new role as Director of Digital Teaching and Learning. It feels awful weird to do that slide yourself. I am very humbled and honored for this opportunity to be the new DTL Director, and I do look forward to working with all of you in this new role, because digital teaching learning has become a vital part of what happens in the classroom, and I look forward to continue to make it the best experience possible for kids. Next slide. And that is the wonderful team that is here to help you. And I am going to say, because I think this is the first official home-based meetup since Corey has been here. And I do want to say that he has been an absolute welcome addition to this team, not only home-based, not only digital teaching and learning, but to this agency. So we are very, very pleased to have him here, and he's doing an exceptional job for us. So thank you officially again. I didn't welcome him, let the record show. I've done that enough in other places, but I do want to tell him how appreciative we are of what he has done for DPI and all of us already, and hopefully all of you. Thank you. Take it over, Corey. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate those updates, and excited for everybody to be here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over into our Canvas slides for today. I'm going to drop those in the chat one more time in case somebody has joined and doesn't have those. I've got a decent sized agenda for you all today, but I want to make sure that, you know, we spend time on things that's going to be beneficial for everyone. And if you need anything, please feel free to drop it in the chat or you know, interrupt me. And that's not going to hurt my feelings at all if you want to just come off mute and have a conversation. So our agenda: welcome introductions, some Canvas updates from the product itself. We're going to have some Q&A time. I've got some DPI updates to share. We're going to look at some of that home-based feedback data that Rob mentioned in the survey. And then Sarah Matthews will be joining us, and we'll be talking about the semester rollover process in Canvas. And then we'll wrap things up and get you guys out of here. First, as always, let's introduce each other. So if you would, in the chat, name, role, and your PSU/school, just so that we have a kind of a rolling conversation of who's all on the call with us today. And I won't stay on this slide very long if anybody is like that. I liked that GIF at first, but that was a choice. Elmo is moving like crazy. Well, if you're still joining in, please feel free to put that in the chat there, but I'm going to move on to our next slide. So the first thing are some just overall product updates that I wanted to share with you guys. If you look at the notes that come out from Canvas or Instructure, these may not be new information to you, but I wanted to at least highlight a few of them. So if you wanted to take these slides and share them out with your stakeholders, you could certainly do that. The first thing is the update to support structure, which Rob mentioned in the opening slides. Sorry, there's a lot of words on the screen, but I didn't want to exclude anything. So there is a change that has occurred, and if you are the admin for your PSU for Canvas, you should have received an email, I believe, at the beginning of the month about this. So Canvas has made a structural change that we are being routed to specifically the priority service team in inclusion with the CSMs that we already have at our disposal in North Carolina. So whether you want to email them via that North Carolina K-12 at Instructure, or you want to email the priority service K-12 team, those will both go to the same place now. And so there's a team of 8 of those, and I saw a few of them on the call with us today, so from our North Carolina team. And so we're excited about that level of support that's being expanded to us, really, for have more CSMs at our disposal. So you may get a response from somebody that you have seen before in the North Carolina team, or you may get a response from somebody else on the priority services team. But so just know that that change has occurred. And like I said, you can use either one of those email addresses. It will get to the team. Any questions about that? Or is anybody from the instructor side wanted to make a comment that I may have missed something?
I think
Okay.
you've got it up, Corey.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
First thing is assignment feedback. So most of these product updates are not going to be in place until the 20th, but obviously I won't see you guys before or after then. But I wanted to share those out. So there is an update going out on the 20th that affects students or anyone who is submitting an assignment. They'll now get these nice notifications there within the platform when a feedback has been given to them by an instructor. So I think that's a really cool thing for them to kind of see that little notification icon there that they'll receive that. This one is probably my most favorite one that has been rolled out because as a admin, I often get frustrated with this, but this is awesome in that when a new user, whether that be a teacher or an administrator or yourself, creates a new course, you will have the option to add it to a sub account and give it a specific course name rather than it just ending up in that manually created sub account section. So you can kind of see here a screenshot of what the current interface is, which you should be familiar with, and what you will see. Jacob, I knew you'd be just as excited about this as I am. That's just where we live. So you can add it directly to a sub account. So if you have it broken out by school, those teachers or admins who are at a sub account level can add it directly to their sub account without you having to move it for them. And when they give that course a name, it will also correspond over to the course code, which if I'm thinking about this correctly, if you're doing any bulk updates via sys import CSV file, that should help alleviate some of those blank course codes that exist out there. Oh, and actually, even so, they'll only even have the sub account that they're currently enrolled in. So that's even better. So, less options. Just target them right in there, exactly what they need. So wanted to share that update with you all, and I think that's an awesome, great feature that's been rolled out or will roll out. The settings URL tab, this is for the teacher at the course level or in a course level that you're enrolled in. When you're using those tab navigations under the settings, that will hold on to that, and you can see it hashed in the URL here so that it knows what specific tab you're on, even if a refresh occurs, which I think is great, especially if you're trying to adjust your navigation and you want to refresh it to see what the new navigation looks like as you make changes. And then I think this is the last one that I have is that if a text submission occurs, yes, Jacob, I want to know if that holds true for the reports tab on the admin tab as well. So we're gonna see what happens on the 20th. And so the word count here is a submission when a student makes a text box submission, it'll give them that word count there. So if that's something that a teacher wanted to know or set as part of the assignment requirements, they can easily then see what that's going to look like or what that word count is. Just point of note that it's not with a file upload or anything like that. It's specifically when you just do a text edit submission. All right. So those are most of the updates that I have for you all. I wanted to jump into some Q&A time for all of us. So if you look on this slide, I'm actually going to come out of the presentation mode. There is a link to a Padlet, and there's several things that I wanted to give you guys opportunities to talk about, and some questions that have been asked of me that I wanted to share across the state and see if I could get some feedback on. So the first three are just opportunities for you all to see, to give me feedback or the instructor team that's here with us, problems that you're seeing, questions that you have, anything else, just because I love to give an other category. And then these four are some questions that have been asked of me that I wanted to share and see if get some feedback from you all, just to make sure that if these problems are localized or if it's something that we need to have a larger discussion with our instructor partners. So if you would take a few minutes, and I'm sorry if you're not ready for the holiday season just yet, because I know it's not Thanksgiving yet, but sorry, I had control to make the Padlet. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. I'm going to drop the link to the Padlet in the chat. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes for you guys to ask questions. You can certainly feel free to come off mute and ask any questions that you have. I just ask that you do record them here in the document as well so that I have that moving forward.
I have one I just put in the Padlet, a problem I'm seeing. We have courses created based upon PowerSchool classes, and kids are automatically synced in. I have a teacher that created sections, manually created sections, divide up, because all of our kids in eighth grade science get put into the course. He created manually created sections and assigned assignments based upon those sections, but they aren't syncing to back to PowerSchool, either the assignment or the grades. Even though,
So that would be expected behavior because the
okay,
way that a course and a section work is very similar to what you would think as individual courses would work. If it's not created originally within PowerSchool, it has no place to put it because it's treating those sections no differently than you would if you cross-listed two courses.
okay.
If that makes sense.
So you can't create a section in a course, even though the kids have numbers associated with them.
Correct, because it has everything to do with that section ID.
Okay.
Because that is the linkage between that and PowerSchool.
Okay.
Because even though you don't have a section for example, in a PowerSchool created course, there is a section of one, and that same section ID is what is linked to PowerSchool, not necessarily the course ID. If I'm getting any of that wrong, Ashley or anybody else, feel free to correct me, but that's the way I understand it.
Yep, that's correct.
Hey, Corey, it's Gina. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Gina?
I'm good. I have a teacher. Okay. The data manager created the course in Canvas, and she has a virtual section along with an in-class section.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want the assignments that's going to the in-class section going to the virtual kids. Is there a way other than me just setting up a dummy course and moving that section to it? Is there another way that you don't see how I can around that?
So they're in the same class within PowerSchool,
Bingo.
but they're treated differently. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I guess I'm going to answer your question with a question. Do they want
Yeah.
to sync their grades?
No, she doesn't care about that. So that's why I created a dummy course and just moved listed that virtual section to it, but I just didn't know if there was another way around that.
Can I
Well,
make
you
a
could do
suggestion?
exactly what.
Just assign sections, like you can
Yeah.
assign a section of one assignment and not the other section.
Right, but those assignments are still coming over to PowerSchool, and it looks like they're missing those assignments.
Well, you can always just assign assignments to the virtual students, and then other assignments can be assigned to the in-class students. So the virtual students will not see the in-class assignments, and the in-class assignments won't see the virtual.
But you
Okay.
just said but you just said that's what I said, but didn't you say didn't you send those assignments, but there's no grades?
They were,
Hey,
Well,
Gina, we've done this with our, one of our middle school classes. It's kind of in a similar boat. We just in PowerSchool made two different sections so that they were two different courses for the teacher. But that way, when we have to do roster verification and everything still shows up as that teacher having those students. But they weren't. They're not in the same course. We didn't merge those two sections.
Okay. See, I think I think if they pull it apart now and make it two different sections or two different same courses, they're going to lose everything that they've done this far.
They will. They will.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to know if somebody's had a simpler way than what I was trying, because it's not hard when I've just got 5 or 6, but if they start spreading the word, that's not going to be a fun part on my end.
No. And you can also use groups within that course as well.
Okay.
But I would just make sure that they're just disabling the sysync on those assignments,
Right.
because
Okay.
I mean, without separating the classes in PowerSchool, there's no way to really sync grades
Yeah.
for different sets of assignments.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
Thanks,
you guess
guys.
you could just give them exempts. That's also an option.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Corey. This is James in Davidson County. I
Hi.
got the red one down there on the first column. I've had a mystery all fall with, we have a virtual school that doesn't have a school code. So all the
Okay.
students are dual enrolled from their home school and the virtual academy.
Oh, Lord.
So all the students are put into a manually created course, which, that's fine. But if I teach world history at Central High School and the virtual student is also from Central High School, PowerSchool somehow is putting that student in a section at the school, even though they're not enrolled in any of that teacher sections at the school. And it will take them out manually, and then a week later, when there's the rollover, it puts them back in after the sync every week. It's like magic, they reappear. And it's not necessarily a problem, except for the children who, we know no children ever just do the work that it says under the to-do list, because they all go to the modules and do what they're supposed to do. But all these kids that just look at the to-do list are doing work in a course where the teacher's not even looking for them because they're not doing work in the right course. I think that'll be fixed for most everybody next year, because I think everybody has to have a school code virtually or not. But we got one more semester for high schools with this, and if there's a workaround or we can figure out why it's doing that, that would be great. But it's a big mystery to me.
So I guess if they're just looking at the to-do list, this is not really a fix as much as it is just I guess it's a fix more than a solution. Are those courses published, or could they just unpublish those courses so the students don't see them?
Well, the child has been put in a course they're currently teaching at the school with other kids and using, even though the child is not supposed to be in that section, because they're in PowerSchool, they're in a separate section for Virtual Academy. But somehow they're getting put into another operational Canvas course for that teacher that they're not even assigned to. It's very strange. And it only happens if the student and the teacher are would be at the same school in person.
I don't know. I have to think about that.
Offline sometime I could maybe show you guys, what it's doing, but it's very bizarre. We cannot figure it out.
Yeah, I'm happy to hop on a call with you and see if we can take a look at it. But yeah, that one might be a little bit more involved. But I'll make a note for that, James. So I'm just looking at the problems. Emoji colors disappeared in Chrome. It's frustrating, especially for folks who use the colors for stations. Okay, I might need a little bit more about the emoji colors disappearing.
So that was me, Corey. This happened maybe 2 days ago, but when all your students have Chromebooks, it's an issue. So I guess Chrome updated it. I put in a support ticket. Canvas is aware of it, but any emojis that a lot of teachers use to designate for visuals for students, all colors have disappeared. So it's hard when you're trying to do different colored circles and there's no color with it. So
Gotcha.
there's not a solution, but in case other folks aren't aware of it, it is a problem. Canvas is aware of it. I'm hoping they're working with Chrome, but as of today, it's still not fixed.
I hope they name it like recoloring or something. That's the name of the project. I don't know. Staying in the lines. That's the humor's free. Actually, you don't have to pay for that extra, you guys. Course renames. Teachers courses continue to get renamed without action from the teacher at the PowerSchool sync. Renamed as in differently from what's in.
Yeah, that's me, man. How's it going? We've been chasing our tail with this thing all year long, and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's related to, so we updated our provisioning over the summer from one-to-many to one-to-one. But some of our data managers had scheduled ahead before the provisioning switched, right? So there's some courses that were grandfathered into the old provisioning status, if you will, like one-to-many still. And like the way they're splitting up sections, it's just, I think it's all related. So for instance, I will find a teacher's course who was provisioned before that has sections from 3 different teachers in it, right? Because maybe they were blocking before, but they're not now. So they've got sections from teacher A, teacher B, teacher C. And we will take those courses out or cross-list them into the proper teacher's courses, for instance. And then a Power School something will happen with Power School. A section gets added back into Teacher Smith's course, and it was named, when I say course name, I'm not talking section name, right? Course name reflected the section name, except now the new section came in from Teacher Johnson, and it changes the course name to Johnson instead of Smith, even though it's got all Smith sections except for the one Johnson section that's not supposed to be there, right? So I don't know how that one rogue section is ending up in a course. It's correct in Power School, so I'm not sure how it's ending up inside that course, but when it does, it also renames the course, and we've got to go back in and change it and redirect that section where it's supposed to go. So I don't know what's going on there. I suspect it's related to the provisioning stuff. I don't know. It was really crazy at the beginning of the year. Once we got it kind of tackled, we've only had sporadic instances, but it continues once a week, twice a week. I'm hearing, hey, my kids say my course has changed. They don't see my course now. They see Miss Johnson's course, but when I go look, it's still Miss Smith's course. It's just been renamed to Miss Johnson's course with a rogue section in there.
Jacob, I'm just curious, have you looked at any of the, and I don't know, actually, I don't know if I ever found the place to look for where they are in Power School. And if John or anybody else from the Power School side can answer this, where because I'm just curious if the section ID or the course ID is at fault there. They may be similar or matching.
That's a great question. I'm not a SIS expert. I know that I'm talking to my SIS folks here in the district and the data managers at the school. Like every ID we can find is pointing to the correct section in Power School that is not where it's reflected inside of Canvas. So I don't know where it's happening. But like the section ID, that 5-digit section ID, you can find that in Power School associated correctly in Power School. So I don't know why it's in a different place in Canvas. Does that make sense?
Ashley or any of the other instructor team, have you guys heard of similar issues if a school makes a provisioning change from one-to-many to one-to-one?
I have not heard of this one. Jacob, I'm assuming you've put in a ticket with Canvas support for SIS team.
Way back at the beginning of the year, we put in a ticket. I think it was what we did was the SIF agent restart with Power School. I know a whole bunch of us had issues with that at the beginning, with wonkiness at the beginning of the year, and that solved the majority of the issues. But we're still, we still have occasional ones popping up from time to time. So
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe we should readdress this one specifically and see if there's something that our SIS team could look at to potentially change on our side to help with this. So I'd recommend putting in a new ticket if you wouldn't mind.
I definitely will. What I'll do is I'll wait for the next instance to happen so I can point at you a precise section and course. So
yeah, if you can give us like super specific examples, that will be super helpful.
Definitely will. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sub-accounts. We have more than one list of courses for each school sub-account. How can we combine them, or how can we determine what can be deleted?
Yeah, that's me. The 2 accounts for each school, the higher number courses are the courses that are more recent. The sub-account that has the lower number are earlier courses like 2014, 2015. Is there some way that we can combine those lists so that when we're searching courses, we have just one listing of the school and we can find everything?
I have not seen where a school has more than one sub-account. Was a new one created, or?
I don't know. I just know that we have 2 sub-accounts for each, and the person who, Danny, who is our director, has not been able to deal with the situation at this time, so I'm trying to. I don't know if we can combine those two sub-accounts, or if we delete the earlier sub-account, we are losing, the history of the courses. So I don't know how they were created or why, but every school has two sub-accounts. So when I'm in a course list and I'm dropping it down just to search one school, I have to click one link and then another link until I find the right list, unless I go to sub-accounts and then just pull up that one school and scroll through.
Right. Well, I think you could move all of those courses to one specific sub account. The thing that I'll make sure I
And
get
you would
this
have to
right.
do that one by one, right?
No. You can definitely do that in bulk.
Hey, it's Jeff. I just put it in the chat. I'm actually working with Danny on that. We just talked about that yesterday. So we have a plan to move forward, actually. I was like, oh, is this Nash County? And yes, it is. So
yes, it is. So if he's already working on it, because I just thought since he asked me to participate in this, I would ask. But if he's already working on it, then
yeah, just yesterday we started to work on it. So
okay, good.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
Just gone. Check that off the list. New quizzes, manually graded questions do not alert them on the to-do list to remind me to grade them. Will this change using matching questions? Will not give partial credit for correct answers. Is this a full score or zero? Is it possible for this to happen? I know a lot of the stuff for new quizzes is still in development. I don't know if I can answer this one. Ashley, Jacob, Jeff, any of you guys have any insight on new quizzes and those particular two issues?
I'm more than happy to speak to this one. Are you able to hear me? I want to make sure my WebEx is working.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm more than happy to speak on this one. The features that were mentioned, things not appearing in the to-do list, partial credit for some specific question types, all of those I can assure you are very much on the radar of the product team. But right now they're focusing on two big things as we approach that sunset timeline. They're prioritizing the migration strategy, that bulk migration strategy, and they're working on making the public API accessible to third parties. So additional third-party tools can be integrated and play nicely with new quizzes. Those are the two big focuses. After those are met, then they'll be able to start working on some of the other features that are missing in new quizzes at this point, like the to-do list and things like that. So not the answer I would love to give at this point, but just keep an eye on those release notes. Like I said, they're definitely aware of those and want those to be integrated at some point. So we'll also be keeping an eye on those and we'll keep you posted best we can.
Thank you, sir.
Totally.
Any other questions, things you guys want to bring up before I move into the few that I had with me today?
Corey, I just wanted to chime in on, and I'm going to put this in there. There's a lot of comments over there about the Google LTI.
Yes.
We've got a few teachers that are using the original cloud that they have to get students to resubmit their assignment before they can actually see it to grade it. I've had a couple teachers express that, but I'll put it in there too.
How's not supposed to work?
James, you're talking about the not the 1.3. You're talking about the original cloud assignment that Canvas developed. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's a good question. I believe it is Jacob, but I'm not sure about that.
I can speak to that one too. The Google Cloud Assignments Lti, again, that Canvas built, that is totally functional at this point and still supported on our end. The Google Assignments Lti 1.3 is still planned to become the default in time, but at this point, there hasn't been a date that's been solidified. I know our teams work very closely with Google, but Google has very much wanted to own the tool, own the integration and the rollout, and to that date, again, hasn't been solidified. So The Google Cloud, that tool you're used to, will eventually go away, but at this point, yeah, no date has been solidified, and we'll be sure to put that on blast whenever we know. When we know what's going to happen, we definitely want to make sure folks are prepared for that.
Thank you, sir. I like this question here. PowerSchool versus Canvas Parent Portal. Are you using one or both of them? I would say, in my experience, I would tell my parents depends on what they want to accomplish, because either one's going to have more in-depth information. So PowerSchool obviously has more things like attendance and student information, and then Canvas, obviously, the parent access is going to give you more in-depth information on assignments, contacting the teacher easily, those types of things. So I encouraged both in Rowan for different reasons, but I'm happy to hear if anybody else has any other ways that they're promoting one or the other in their district.
In Cumberland, we just make sure that our parents know that PowerSchool is the authoritative grade source, because Canvas is not always syncing the way that it should.
Yep.
And you can help that, not with the sync part, but get grades closer if you, especially if you use category weights in PowerSchool, set those same weights in Canvas, and that'll help keep grades closer than if you're using total points in Canvas and the category in PowerSchool.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, so the first thing I had was centralizing the EOI process. So I believe this was a question that was asked of me when I first started, because I know as of right now, we all go in to receive an email and indicates that I believe it was a Google form that we filled out indicating when you wanted your sysync to pause and when you wanted to resume, and all the stuff for EOI for Canvas. Somebody asked me about the possibility of centralizing this, and I'm just really just posing it as a question to the people on this call. I have no real thoughts and opinions one way or the other. If it's something that you think would make everyone's lives easier by centralizing it, then I'm happy to help work with Instructure to make that happen. Or if it's something you would rather still maintain your independent pause and start. Yes, Jacob, that's kind of what I'm getting to, is basically standardizing that. So when we would all kind of the way when PowerSchool comes back up, we would all know that Canvas would start syncing on insert date that we select. That's kind of what I was thinking. It would just, and I think, I'm also hoping that, maybe if we were to centralize it, that we could more easily troubleshoot some of those CIF agent issues that we may have at the beginning. I thought about that, Gina, but I guess my initial thought is you can't really start until PowerSchool comes back. I mean, you can if you're just doing manually created courses. Yeah, but I'm also very curious about how year-round accommodations work for those that are, I mean, do you just not have PowerSchool that one week or week and a half that it's down? It's just a thought. If not, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Corey, I guess that would mean that PowerSchool needs to have a standard day that comes back up, right?
Don't we?
I mean, it depends.
I mean, assuming all goes well, which it always does, Tessa.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess so we have a date that we try and hit. And like you said, it has to all go smoothly, so the syncs afterwards, the scripts have to be run, all that stuff. Probably 99% of the time we've hit that date.
Yeah. And here again, that's why I wanted to bring it to this group first and see what their thoughts were. Because if it's not something worth pursuing, then I wouldn't gonna bring it up to you guys and Justin to see how we could make that work. But
it's a good thought. I like it.
Yeah, it's literally just that pause of the sync and just communicating that within structure and just kind of making it a little bit more centralized for you guys. And you're not having to fill out that Google form every year.
So Corey, I think I like where you're going with this, but I think it speaks to a bigger issue in that I would love to see some more, I guess, consistency for PowerSchool. Because I know we've talked about it before in this group where some of our data managers and folks will go ahead and start putting in and scheduling in January, February. And then all those courses or teachers change. And so it'll sync over and then you go into terms and you have two different terms because things have just gotten a little crazy and so maybe we can have some consistency across the board to help with that. And I think that's more, it's not just a Canvas, but it's really coming down to PowerSchool and how things are entered in on a lot of the data manager sides that I think could help with that. But also maybe having a conversation with PowerSchool of, do we just restart the SIF agent every year? Because I mean, I know many of us, it's almost like that's what we do every single July and August. So maybe that's just a step and then it's taken care of for us. So we're not spinning our wheels and getting frustrated when things aren't syncing. Those are just a few thoughts. I like where you're going. I just wonder if it needs to be bigger in scale.
Sure. And that's I wonder if there's a possibility though, and I know everyone's independent and it's not one sync, if there is a way to exclude any future data until EOI occurs. But that might be a oh, sorry. It sounds like my microphone's going in and out.
I was going to say, Corey, I don't know if it's just me, but you keep cutting in and out.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn not that you don't want to all see my lovely face. My internet might be
Can I
unstable.
just ask a question on we've only done the EOY process once in Cumberland. And I remember the discussions that some of the others were sharing last spring as we were kind of getting close to the end of the year. Some people actually use their future course, like they let their people, I guess, do some things in their future courses. We didn't, but I don't remember us having that issue. One thing that we've had though, we've had to request our SIF agent restart more than I would say more than 3 times. Sabrina's on here with me. She can verify. I would say maybe 5 or 6 times since school started. So I don't know. We have sync issues like crazy here. And for whatever reason, when they restart that SIF, it fixes it. So I'm not sure if anybody else has those issues, but we have that in Cumberland. I mean, I'm pretty sure, we've probably restarted, a handful of times since August. It's almost like when all else fails, they put in the ticket to ask PowerSchool to restart the SIF, and then it fixes it.
Gotcha.
So,
It's
I don't know
been,
if there's
it's
something
been
that can,
several times this year.
yeah, I don't know if there's something that can just be done on a regular, or if anybody else has any problems like we do, but it just seems weird that we have to do that regularly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just gonna say this is on a different note. I'm just thinking about the sync. Our district tends to be very particular about when teachers can have access to their schedules and their students. Our principals don't like them to have it too early, I guess. So we've always used that day. We kind of wait to the last minute to turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of school systems that are like that. Any other thoughts? And I know we've kind of delved into a conversation about SIF agents here, but I am open to any and all of that, and you can feel free to send me your thoughts in an email or add it here in the Padlet. That's totally up to you guys. But I think at least exploring the conversation of what could we do to centralize maybe a SIF agent restart for everybody. That maybe sound like it might be more beneficial than centralizing maybe when the sync stops and starts. But I am open to any other thoughts and feedback.
And Corey, I'll just say, it might have been before you got here, but I feel like I've been a part of some conversations that Dr. Dietrich had with Power School about the SIF agent restart around EOI because it's been such a sync issue.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times it's caused because in Power School, the years and terms for next year has to be created for them to even start scheduling. And then if they're scheduling in Power Scheduler, they have different years and terms. And then when they sync that over to the live side, it updates the years and terms, and that may not necessarily sync back to Canvas, but a restart. I don't know. I guess sometimes there's a hiccup in it. I'm not sure how that sync works entirely, but the restart of the SIF syncs it back up.
Okay.
So I know the conversation is on the table about that. So you might want to follow up with Dr. Dietrich about it.
Yeah, I can always talk to him about that. Sorry, I'm just making a few notes here. Any other thoughts and questions? I have terrible wait time, so I'm going to move on if that's okay with everybody. John and I were on a call, and someone asked about the accommodations abilities within SchoolNet for the LTI being delivered an assessment within Canvas. Is anybody else seen any situations where if a student has an accommodation, those accessibility or those tools are not available to them within the LTI within Canvas? So I do see the one comment there, but I had not heard anything, and neither had John. So I wanted to just pose it to this group and see if it was a larger issue at hand that we were addressing that. So it sounds like John and I will talk with that specific PSU and see if there's something local to their instance that might be causing that issue. So it looks like for most of you guys, it states that it creates a new set of courses when a teacher of record changes over in Power School. I could have swore that was not the case, but but I don't remember having to go and cross those courses. So I guess my question then to follow up with that for you all is, how do you all address that for those teachers? Are you cross-listing to get that existing course information into that new shell?
Yeah, we created a form that our data managers fill out and complete, and that notifies us, and we cross-list them back.
Yeah, we cross-list it. But what I've tried to do is put out there before, if they know a teacher's leaving and one's coming in, I've asked them to put the new teacher in, if they can, as a co-teacher in Power School. And then the day before they leave, switch who's lead and who's co. And then let it switch over in Canvas, and then remove the teachers who's left after that. It sometimes works, and I don't lose anything.
That's interesting.
We've typically been cross-listing the new blank course and moving those kids back to the previous teacher's course so the work is there. Most of the new teachers want to see what they did. We just change in the short title the teacher's name. The only problem that I've had is for anybody that wanted to do grade pass back, I've not been able to successfully get that to work once I cross-list. But you know, we've just told them to put all their grades in Power School for now. They seem to prefer doing that and having the course than being able to pass back and not have any of the other course information for student work.
Yeah. James, did you see Jacob's comment in the chat there? Sometimes if you re-import those gradebook categories, it will reestablish that link.
Yeah, we've done that, and I have not had one success with it. I think Don and Iredell Statesville told me that, and we've done it multiple times, and it just didn't take for some reason, so we kind of gave up on it.
Oh, interesting. Y'all are making me second guess now what happened when I was a Canvas admin. I just
Can I get clarification on the adding of the co-teacher? So you're adding the co-teacher in Canvas and Power School?
Okay, so
yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Is if I know if they know they're going to leave, I have them put the new teacher in as a co-teacher in the same class in Power School. Then upon the next sync, they can just sort of add them to the course in Canvas. And then, and you can even make them co-lead, but I don't like to do that at first. And then, but I've had them do that and then switch the co-teacher to the lead teacher. It syncs again and it moves it over because both teachers are in there. I guess that's how it's working. It's worked more times than it hasn't.
Okay, thanks.
So I am curious. So someone obviously said in that it is updating their existing courses. I guess I'm just curious as to why we're getting mixed behavior from different syncs.
Yeah, that was me that said we're having success, and I honestly have no idea except to celebrate our amazing SIS team and systems admin team for whatever buttons they push, but I don't know why it's happening, but I will say we are luckily not running into that headache in ABSS.
Tessa or John, is there more than one way into which to switch out lead teachers within a section?
So the only thing I'm wondering is if they're entering the dates correctly for removing the teacher, like dropping the teacher, like if there's an overlap or there's not an overlap, or if there's a gap in those dates. I wonder if that's causing an issue, because a lot of times you want to do the end date, like if the teacher's leaving today, you would do their end date today, and then the next teacher should start tomorrow, or even it's possible to even just overlap them, like end date today, start date tomorrow. But I'm wondering if there's maybe a gap in there for these other districts, and that's what's causing the sync issue. I would have to look into it and how it's being done in Power School.
Yeah.
But it's all done on the section. You know, you can even add 2 lead teachers, I think, as someone was saying, but I don't know if the TE2 syncs over to Canvas.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So I'm not sure. We'd have to look at that.
Yeah.
I would definitely be interested in looking at that. So if you go
Yeah,
deeper
I'm gonna do some follow up on this with the sysadmin in my former PSU, because I don't remember having this issue, that or I was just a terrible Canvas admin and no one asked me about this, which I hope that wasn't the case. But you never know. because I would love to get some consistency on this, so we're at least experiencing the same thing across the state. Because I feel like the cross listing is a lot of extra work for you guys. But because I feel like if the section ID is not changing, that section as a whole should not change. But
Right.
that's just my thoughts and opinions. Those are also free.
And also the other thing you kind of have to be careful with is state reporting. So depending on what time of year you're doing the co-teacher or adding them in PowerSchool, state reporting might be pulling that information, like legislative class size. We don't really have SAR anymore, so that's not a concern, but
That's also true.
it'd be nice to get some consistency or just figure out what's going on so we can have some guidance for it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to look into that. And then the last one, I will be fully transparent. I don't have a lot of experience with the Google LTI assignment. So that's why I wanted to bring this to this group. My former district didn't really leverage this entirely a whole lot. So the school system that reached out to me was having this particular issue. When a student would submit, they would get this HTML error, or on the teacher side when they were trying to view that student's submission. So I did do some basic, research and saw that sometimes if they submit a doc, like docx file, that can also cause an issue rather than converting it to a true Google Doc. But I wanted to see if there's anybody else who could offer any wisdom or knowledge to this particular district who's asking that question.
So a couple of things that we noticed in Watauga is we got rid of the Google Cloud. I know it's still being supported, but I made it end of life in the summer. I got rid of it because there was a conflict. It just wasn't working great.
Straight up killed it. Just knocked it out.
Just removed it. That's fine. But one of the things that we have noticed, everything was going really well for the first bit, and then Google updated their security settings in October. And that's where we have seen some of these HTML errors. Yes, on the docs thing. So what happens is typically a teacher has moved a Word document or got it from Teachers Pay Teachers or wherever, and that's what they use, and it will work, but it will cause the error. So that's number one that we've seen that. But the second error is the security settings. So some folks who used to use a copy link, that'll cause an error when students submit it back. Or if a student hasn't, they will have to sometimes change the share settings to either anyone within the district or anyone with the link to get it to overcome the HTML error. Now on the Google Assignments LTI, where it automatically makes a copy, that one we've not seen any errors except it says no file attached. If they click on more and make a new copy, that will fix it. But when students are going to just on a regular submission, the teacher has selected file upload and they click more and do Google Assignments, that's where we've seen the most errors, but it's been since the Google security settings upgrade. So I would love to see if anybody else has any other solutions besides the ones that we came up with, which is just changing the share settings. And that's just a pain for students to do at that point.
It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, so if anyone has a solution to that, that would be great. I've escalated up to Google, but of course, haven't heard.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. That's more knowledge than I've been able to find about this. So, and like I said, we did not use it very heavily in my district. So I appreciate that. Anybody else found anything that has been successful for you all?
So I encourage our teachers to not use the cloud assignment type, even though it still exists out there, because it causes some strange submission errors with just certain students. There's no rhyme or reason. We use the LTI assignment type, and I've seen the HTML error before, and it's usually when a student was submitting a docx, like you said, but also if they're trying to submit something while using the Canvas app and not submitting it on a PC or Chromebook.
Mm. Anything else, either pertaining to the Google LTI or other thoughts, questions, things that you guys want to talk about in our Q&A time today? Okay. You know me. I can't have this too long wait time. I do have a few DPI updates for you guys. Just as a reminder, if you're not enrolled in our Canvas course, this is where I just kind of post updates for you guys. It's where these slide decks are, where the recordings are. I'm doing some aesthetic, just overall structure upgrades, not necessarily to the content, but if you have any feedback, things that you think you would like to see in the course, added, subtracted, any of those things, please let me know. I do want to make sure that everyone knows that we have a Google distribution group, email group for everyone, you all to utilize, share and ask questions in between the times from our home-based meetups together. If you don't mind just going through, and the link right here is this tab. I have hopefully broken out all of the PSUs. If you just don't mind giving me names and email addresses of any number of contacts that you have or would like to have listed for your PSU, I just want to make sure that those names are on that distribution group, and we have a list of who all the contacts are for the respective school systems for Canvas. We have a similar list like this for our other home-based products like PowerSchool and SchoolNet, and so I wanted to make sure that we had something similar for that to support you guys and make sure that I had a point of contact and my colleagues had a point of contact if we needed to reach out to one of you guys specifically out there in the field. So if you don't mind just giving me names, email addresses, if you have more than 5 people you want to have on this, keep going. I just listed out 5 because I thought that was a good number to go to. I am gonna move on from that though, but please feel free to add to that as we go throughout. And if you're watching the recording, you can access that link there. In addition to that, I wanted to share some documents that the home-based team that we've been working on is a home-based admin guide. So this is a new and still in progress resource for you all. But this is just an admin guide because we know that changes do happen. There are new administrators coming in and out of school systems all the time. So we want to make sure that you all had our points of contact to get in touch with us. As new administrators come into the various different products within Homebase, that you had a means of just having some very surface level information as a new administrator. So for Canvas, I kind of go through an explanation of what is Canvas and how do they access it through NC Ed Cloud. What do they need to know as a new Canvas administrator? Lots of just links and resources there. What things you need to know as a new teacher. So this is information you could share with new teachers within your institution, as well as Canvas for students and parents. And so you can scroll through this document, know that it is a living document. So we are open to feedback and suggestions about ways to improve it, add, subtract. You're not going to hurt our feelings because we want this to be a resource that is beneficial to you all. This will be linked, like I said, in my Canvas course with you all. So if you lose the link to it, it will be back in there. But wanted to just give kind of a 30,000 foot view for everybody who is if you were a new administrator to Canvas, PowerSchool, insert any of the home-based products that we support. Just a reminder, we have our NC Canvas teacher webinars. And actually the next one is tonight. So we're going to be hanging out from 7 to 8 this evening, where we're going to talk about formative assessments. And so all of those are DLC point one DLC CEUs, opportunities for your teachers. So please share those out. Below is the schedule for what we will have between now and the end of the school year. So we're going to be recycling through a few of those in the spring, but make sure that you sign up for those and that you share those out with your teachers. I want to look at some of the home-based survey feedback. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but I did want to share that out because it is important for us to know that we are looking at data. And so Canvas frequently. So out of the roughly 4,000 some odd responses that we got 1,300 of them essentially that kind of talked about how frequently you're using Canvas. So I was happy to see that, daily and weekly were the largest two categories there. I think a lot of people who may be just going into Canvas for professional development or other resources is why we see those other values there, other responses. But it was nice to see that, we had a large grouping of people. It's 78% there that are accessing it at least on a weekly basis. Primary reason for not using Canvas. So there were only 141 responses. These were all qualitative responses. So these were, sentences and statements that people wrote out. And I used some coding techniques to categorize them here. But I wanted to share that out. So a lot of people are using it just for professional development, or they have access to Google Classroom. Not user-friendly also encompasses things like, just not understanding how to utilize the platform, wanting to seek professional development on the resource. The one that I think, and thankfully it was on the lower part of the list, was this one is categorized as online learning. A lot of those responses centered around people stating that they utilized it last year in response to the pandemic, but now that they were back in in-person learning, that they were not utilizing the learning management system. So that's just the only one that I would say that probably bothered me, I guess, is to be the honest way about it, is that those responses were, the learning management system does have a place in the physical classroom. But thankfully there were not a whole lot of responses. Like I said, I think that was maybe 13 out of the 141, but just wanted to point that one out. And then the last one that I wanted to point of note was a Likert base, so 0 to 10 scale of how valuable do you find it to your professional practice. And we had 1,600 responses there. Obviously a great mean of 7.6 with a standard deviation of 2.9. So I think that's some good feedback there to indicating that overall there's significant value from the teachers and administrators that we received some information on. And I think I agree with you, Morgan, that so that's something that I would encourage you to look into in your PSU about why it's still relevant, not just Canvas, but all of your digital tools that you are utilizing in your district. I know it's a struggle, and I think that's all something we can all relate to in the work that we are doing. But I just want to make sure that you all know that I wanted to share some of this data with you. And I'm happy to open up the floor to any questions or comments that you may have had about the home-based feedback data. I think the good thing about this data, for me, it indicates that I think we're on the right track. I think we're making some positive traction in people understanding the benefit of the platform, and so I think we just need to continue and push forward with that. And it sounds like a lot of you guys are doing that in your districts, which is great. And know that you have me here as a resource to help in any of that, to think about it strategically, train, have conversations with leadership, whatever that may be. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. But I think I haven't seen Sarah jump on, but
I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Hi. How are you?
Sorry, I don't know how to see who is where. WebEx is a little challenging for me. But I asked Sarah to join us today, and we're going to talk about the semester rollover in Canvas. So questions and concerns. A few people asked me about that. And of course, this cute little dog rolling over in its little blanket. I just thought it was adorable, but you know, I think it's fun like that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I've got to find you. Oh, you can share your screen. You don't need me to give you any permissions. Look at there.
I think you gave them to me already.
Yeah. You're all set, Sarah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm a little squeaky. I'm getting over it. Not COVID, like I know y'all know because you're in schools, but the respiratory virus is going around that's like COVID, but it's not COVID. Well, my kids are in schools and they have graciously shared this with me. So, and I've lost my teacher immunity superpower. So anyway, I'm a little squeaky, but we'll get through this. So I'm gonna stay out of present mode for just a minute because I'm gonna flip up in the top, and then I can go into present mode if it's easier for you guys to see that way. I think I came to last month's meeting, so you may remember me. If you weren't here, you don't know who I am. I'm Sarah Matthews. I work for Instructure. I'm a principal learning consultant on the Strategic Services Learning Services team, and I am working with DPI as a consultant this year. So Corey and I were talking earlier about, what would be most helpful for me to talk about this month at the home base meeting. And he shared with me that he had a document. Do you want me to show them the document? Are you going to share that out with them?
I have in the past, but you can certainly go ahead and share it and do whatever you'd like.
Okay, so he has this document here that was shared with him by Instructure, and it's a really succinct, right, kind of document that walks you through some of the things that you need to be aware of, right? You can see for rollover, also preparing for summer, that sort of thing. So, and when you share the link out, which I can do in just a minute when I figure out how to work WebEx, it's a forced copy, right? So it'll force you to make a copy so all of you can take the document and take it back to your PSUs and utilize it how you will. So that's kind of where this information is coming from. So I have a slide deck that kind of will help us walk through that document in a more visually pleasing way than just kind of this linear document. All right, so real quick we're going to look at general guidelines, best practices for admins, instructors. Instructors are really where we're going to hang out. So this is going to be, there's a lot more on for spring rollover anyway, right? We're not beginning of the year, like August, beginning of the year, we're spring rollover. So we're really going to just kind of do some reminders, some refreshers for instructors who are primarily, right, going to be at the middle and high school level who are starting new classes with new students, right, when they come back in January, and then some resources at the end. So real quick, general guidelines, this is always, and there's never not a good time to remind you of these resources. They're my favorite. So we have the beginning and end of course checklist, which I think Corey had linked in his Canvas course too. And then a Canvas admin checklist, right, that you guys can use. The star rating is phenomenal. So it's broken up right into different topics here. And then you've got the star rating for essential all the way up to above and beyond, right? So ninja level skills there. And then the same here for the checklist. So this is going to be your instructor, your teacher facing, and this will be your Canvas admin. What I like about this is that it links out directly to the guide. So if you see something on here that's a 1-star and you're unfamiliar with what that is, you're a new Canvas admin. If you are struggling maybe in this particular area, like for example, 1-star would be create a sub-account structure. You can go to the guides and it'll walk you through step-by-step with images. It's like a step guide. And then you can go from there, right, to create your sub-account structure right away. I also like that it stretches you, right? So if you're going to accomplish maybe the 1- and 2-star in the spring, that over the summer or before August fall start rolls around, right, maybe you can dive into some of these 3-star things so you can constantly learn and grow. And I like that. All right. So we've got these 2 documents. Could I place the links for these guides? So I am going to share this out because everything is linked out here. And I think that would be the easiest thing to do. Let me put it in the chat. There you go. All right. So everything that I pulled, like these two, for example, are linked out right here. And I don't know if this document is or not, so I'm just going to put that in the chat as well. The way you have it, if you prefer like a more linear kind of document. I think this one is easier. Like the other, so the one I'm presenting from, right, is obviously for presentation purposes, but this one is a lot easier if you're going to print it off and kind of set it next to you as you work through the process. Okay, general guidelines. So I have to say these are our disclaimers, right? So every instance of Canvas is unique. So I will use the word recommendation a lot, right? It is our recommendation, or experience has told us, or right, all the forms of those sorts of things. But ultimately, right, you guys know the unique needs of your institution, of your PSUs. And if our recommendations don't kind of match those unique needs, then disregard, right? So my little disclaimer there. If you haven't or don't hang out in the Canvas community, I would do that often and bookmark it. It is, I work for Instructure. I still go to the Canvas community every single day. You just cannot possibly know all the things about Canvas. So it is a living, breathing document or collection, knowledge base really of resources. And we update it regularly. We have a community team, and that is their job. So if a screen changes, a screenshot needs to be updated, it's done on the regular, right? So it is a source of truth, as we say, for Canvas. So if you ever have any questions, that is always the first place that I check. Those of you who are working as Canvas admins in your PSUs, right, you should be having those meetings, monthly meetings-ish, depending on where you are, right, with your CSMs. And so if you have any institution-specific questions, I would reach out to your CSM and let them know that you heard some information about rollover and you needed a little more help. And Corey's here too, and he's fabulous. He is a wealth of knowledge around Canvas. So let's talk real quick about Canvas admins. I think I can go into present mode now. Yep, I can. All right, so Canvas admins. The first thing I want to talk about is terms. And terms typically come over from your SIS. They should come over from your SIS if everything's set up correctly. So we recommend that you leave runs from dates, right? Because that's coming over. I recommend adding some padding, as I call it, right, from the student teacher perspective. So these are your default roles: the student, teacher, TA, designer. Sorry. I typically recommend some padding, right? So allow access, maybe on the front and back end, particularly for teachers. Students, that's kind of up to the PSU, right? But adding some padding to that helps, right, for access. Do you guys do that now? Does anybody have like a go-to, like I always add a week, or I always add 2 weeks, or anything that you found that works for you really well? This is a quiet group, Corey. What did you do, Corey, when you were a Canvas admin?
I'll be honest, I didn't change any of the other sub dates. Okay. Because the main concern that I always had was students seeing their schedules before the semester was supposed to start, or having access to it after it ends. So I think that's nice that it comes over as that default for students to access term start to term end.
Yep, I usually adjust teacher. Sometimes I'll adjust student depending on like I taught high school, right? And so to make sure that all the work got in for graduation, I taught an EOC, that kind of thing. Like we always allowed for access like a couple days after term end, just to get work in. But that's kind of, again, like a PSU decision. Teacher access dates, giving them some padding on the front and end is something that you could easily do if you wanted to. I saw something in the chat. Let me... I set it up for the day after grades are due. We've had for teachers 2 weeks before term start. Yeah, that's 2 weeks is typically what I do before term. Okay. All right. So terms are important. If for some reason you go in, like, first of all, go in and look at them and make sure they're there. They should be. This is spring rollover. So hopefully we haven't gotten this far into the year and not head terms. So make sure your terms are there. They again double check to make sure that everything is coming over clear from the SIS, which it should be at this point. And then if you want to do some padding, you do have that option. Grading periods, right? So configuring grading periods. You can also extend the close date to give teachers extra time to grade in Canvas. I think that's pretty standard. For most districts that I work with or states that I work with, they're doing something along those lines, particularly after last year. I always talk about items with no due date. So the caveat, right, to grading periods is that it controls access to items that have a due date. And that I should probably have put in not just italics, but bold. I know that is the bane of everybody's existence, right? Assignments without a due date. So if you do not have the due date in there, right, it automatically falls into the last grading period of the term. So make sure that your grading periods match to your SIS. If you're using grade pass back, this is especially important. I've also seen, what else did I see? I saw an interesting use of grading periods. I had a district that created just a no due date grading period, which I thought was a really kind of unique way to funnel those no due dates into there. Does anyone do something like that?
That's cool.
I don't see anything in the chat. If you want to unmute, you're more than welcome to. I'm just curious if anybody else is doing that. I thought that was like a fantastic idea. No? All right. Well, there you go. You're welcome. Tip of the day. So if you're interested in that. Sorry, I thought I'd keep that space out. All right. Verify important account settings, right? So we're still talking about Canvas admin level. Set up your sub account structure and make sure it's intact. If you wanted to go, I always recommend, or typically what we see is that they set them up by the school, like each school is a sub account. Now, every instance of Canvas is unique, right? And we all have unique needs. So if there's another way that you've organized your sub accounts, fantastic. I'm curious to hear what that is. I always like to hear unique use cases. But just, having a sub account structure in place, right, is important. So I always say use Spring Rollover to check roles and permissions because we do update those pretty frequently. We don't do it on the semester schedule, right? We do it, it could be as frequently as monthly, right? So just making sure that every once in a while you stop and kind of make sure, just check in on your roles and permissions. What we tend to do, I'll tell you, so how we tend to update roles and permissions is we make them more granular. We separate permissions that had multi-parts, right, into separate permissions. And so just kind of double checking those to make sure that they are where you want them, because we want everyone to have the right amount of access that they need. And then reviewing feature options. I think this is a naturally good time, right, to go in and look at those things. So typically, yeah, we have the feature options that impact the user experience. We want to enable them before the new term instead of, like, I don't know, March, right? So it's just kind of a preference, although they can be turned on at any time. Am I going too fast? Are you guys doing okay? I taught high school, so I know I talk really fast. Another thing I wanted to call your attention to had to do with content distribution. So we've got this awesome document in here. If you're following along, you can check this out. I'm not going to click it because I'm in present mode, right? But this is a screenshot from it. I really like this document because it compares kind of the main ways that we think about mass content distribution, the blueprinting versus commons versus templates. And I think this chart, which we've updated several times over, is really handy. So if you're thinking about blueprinting, I would check out this chart. If you're thinking about pointing everyone to commons, I would check out this chart. And if you're doing course templates, I would check out this chart, right, to make sure that it does all the things that you need to do, and there maybe isn't a better way for you to distribute your content. If you are utilizing templates, I put this kind of in there. Set those up before you assign to sub accounts. So if you stop your sysync for any reason, like do it before your sysync is resumed. And I also like this, using templating to set recommended navigation settings. If it's standardized, right? Any of these things, or assignment groups, right? You can do that on the templating side. which I think is super helpful. It's like just a little detail that I think is much appreciated. You guys have any questions? Are we doing okay? I think I'm not going to go there. All right. And then the other thing is if you've got your field admins, I don't know if there are any field admins here, but if you're communicating out with your field admins, right, just check and make sure that your knowledge base is where you want it to be, right? So make sure it's updated. There's not a whole heck of a lot to do, right, for the spring rollover, but just kind of make sure that field admins have access, which they should through the admin console. If you're changing field admins, right, maybe walk them through what that means and how to access those things. This is another great tip. Be super clear what you want your agent sharing, your staff and support cases, because that clarity helps not muddy the water, right? If things are shared that maybe you didn't want shared, if that makes sense. You guys have any questions about that? I think I'm moving. Oh no, I've got this last slide and then I'll move into the instructor side. This is also a really good time to maybe send out some communication, some reminders around the why behind using Canvas. And I saw in the chat that you guys are having those conversations around the why behind blended learning. So something along those lines might be a helpful reminder. If you have any PD or training opportunities, so Corey was sharing with you the webinars, for example, this would now be a really good time at the beginning of the year to go ahead and put those out and let people know that those are happening through DPI, and they can get them on their calendars and earn digital, what is it called in North Carolina? Digital learning credits,
digital learning competencies.
DLCs, that's what it is. DLCs, that's right. Anyway, so I think this is just a good time to kind of level the playing field and refresh and reset and get the communication out there. Be ahead, right? Instead of being reactive, right? Kind of sharing some information on the front end. We're going to move into instructors. Before I do that, do you guys have any questions? Let me check the chat. You're doing okay in the chat?
Yeah, we're doing good.
All right. So instructors, and this is where, in my opinion, right, especially at spring transition or rollover, this is they have a little bit more heavy lifting because it's not the start of the school year. These are just some recommendations, right? So build in a sandbox. So I always recommend to teachers that they build a dev course, right? Or a course that they are using to build in and then move it into their live courses or the courses that are synced, right, with students in them. Because we have made it so much easier to copy content from Sandbox to other courses. It's just nice to have that copy, right, that you can build in and then move to your live course. And once your course is built out for the year, right, you can pull that into, there's lots of ways you can do it. You can export it as a file, you can pull it into Commons, you can do all kinds of stuff, right, to take that your course that you actually taught, like that content that you generated, and then maybe use that as your sandbox the next year, right, that sort of thing. If your institution allows you, right, you cross-listing, this would be the time to do that. So I always recommend to cross-list before content is added to courses. I mean, this sounds intuitive, right? But I'm just going to say it. Cross-listing is typically recommended only if the courses are all the same content or prep, right? That's the point of cross-listing is you're taking those multiple courses that have the same content or prep and you're putting them basically into sections. So you're not having to maintain multiple courses with the same content or prep. There are some implications around grade passback that can happen depending on the institution's configuration. So cross-listing is awesome. Teachers love it. It's fantastic. But there are some considerations, as we call them, right? Some things to think about, particularly around grade passback. So just kind of be aware of those.
Yeah. And one of those that I do want to mention is from the Power School perspective is I do agree with what Sarah says about, cross-listing before you put in any content. But the thing you want to do before you cross-list is have teachers set up those gradebooks for those individual courses by importing those gradebook categories and setting them up in Canvas before cross-listing. It will save you a lot of headache.
Excellent point. Yes. All right, so importing content, these are things that you can share with your teachers. You can import from Canvas courses or sandboxes. You can do direct share, Commons, right? So I often recommend to teachers that they share things to Commons because it's free. It's free cloud storage, right? And you can make it private to me. So I know that's a concern. Sometimes people go to Commons to look for things that are shared. And so I have to remind teachers like, hey, you don't have to share it, right? And so often at the end of the year, one of my recommendations is, I know just to make sure, right? But go ahead and send your stuff to Commons. And I usually send my courses to Commons and do a file, Canvas export file package, right? Like, so multiple ways that I kind of preserve that content, but why not? So I don't know if you at the institution or the PSU level have a recommended way to go about it. Like we recommend this over this, but just kind of putting all the options out there to have that conversation, to get out in front of that conversation with your teachers. And feel free, because you guys have this slide deck, right, that you can use this to help your teachers kind of to go over those different options. Sorry, guys. All right, so using the import tool, this is just a quick overview of how to do that. If you've got the content already built in a Canvas course, you can copy it using the import course content function, right? And this will kind of walk you through that. And I'm sure you do, right? But you can adjust the due dates here, or you can pull some content in and not others if you want to do it that way. So there's a bit of granularity there. And this is just a tip. If your institution has applied a template or a blueprint to your course, select specific is recommended, right, to help try to preserve that structure. Direct share. So if you've got that content built somewhere else, you can use direct share. Super easy to, LeVar Burton was our keynote speaker. So we have incorporated lots of LeVar Burton stuff into our presentations this year, which has been fantastic. All right, so if you want to use direct share, you actually would go in and you would hit your, I think it's the 3 dots, and then it would come down, right? You can copy specific items or an entire module. I really like this. I remember when this first came out, there was a lot of hoopla around it because everyone was so excited, right, to be able to copy like specific things that they wanted, which I thought was really neat. And we've also got the Commons option here, right? So, oh, and I will say about copy to, real quick before I forget. So copy to is if you are the teacher of record in both courses, right? So I copy to my own courses and I send to my colleagues, right? So that's kind of how I try to remember it. But copy to is I'm the teacher of record, and send to is I am sharing, right, with a colleague. All right, so we've got Commons as another option here that we can send things to Commons and then pull them back down. It is best to import into a blank sandbox, right? And then you can pick and choose what you want to take from there into your live course or your course with your students in it. So again, just kind of that recommendation of best practice of building into a sandbox and bringing things into a sandbox first, organizing them, and then putting them into your course. Make sure that we remind teachers to customize course settings, right? So this is not streamlined, right? These are the students have access to everything, right? And then this is when we go in and we've streamlined our navigation. And remember, just because we say students don't have access to quizzes here, right? They will in our modules. So we're not locking them out of that. We're just taking the shortcut away from them, so they don't go straight to the quizzes and take all of our quizzes and not look at our content. So just a quick reminder there. Customizing course settings. This is the more options that's hidden. If you're looking at course settings, these are really, really important. Edit based on preferences and or PSU settings. They can be updated at any time. So oftentimes, if we don't do it in the beginning, of a course, we remember really quickly that these things need to be done, but just kind of a reminder first. It may be easier to be more restrictive at first and then open up more options as needed. Oh, sorry, guys. Let me make sure we don't have any questions. Do we have any questions in the chat? Don't copy the same content to a course more than once. Yes, that's an excellent piece of advice. It will override. Yep. Run the link validator. Again, I'm just going to put a plug in, right, for accessibility and make sure that all of our broken links are fixed, because that is no fun. Review the course and student view. This is always something I did. It's just really a good best practice to go in and look and see what students are seeing, make sure that the course is navigable, right? Like, can I get where I need to go? Look for kind of errors or unpublished items. Like, this is a real quick check to make sure that we've got everything ready to go. We know that some of the LTIs, may not be visible in student view. And then the last thing, and the most important thing, and I should have put this at the beginning and the end, right, is publish. So make sure that your course is published and ready to go so that students can access your material. And then it says, check your module headers too. They must be published for students to be able to see the content within them. So just like a little tip. Question number one when I have teachers come to me is, well, or is it published? And I do that. I still sometimes will forget to publish some things. I mean, it is so easy to overlook. So easy because we can see it, right? And so we assume that everybody else can see it. So I totally understand how that happens. Then I put there's some resources on the back end, right? If you have questions around these are the Canvas guides, kind of that link out to the different topics that we looked at. So they're there for you if you need it. And that's all I've got. You guys have any questions for me?
Thank you, Sarah, and I appreciate you being here with us, and I hope you feel better. So I just wanted to make sure that we had some time to talk about those things, because like I said, I did get a couple questions around how to make those transitions for the teachers, and I will echo, and I'm sure as many of you guys will, that having that access to making sure that teachers publish their stuff is very important. But that pretty much wraps up our call today. I'm just going to put the link to the feedback and the chat as soon as I figure out where that chat went. So we do ask that you fill out our feedback form, and just put the screen back up with our home-based team just so you know who those point of contacts are. But we're happy to stay on the call and answer any questions that you guys have. And if not, I'm going to give you 20 minutes of your day back.